I think it's clear, Nick, that the New York Giants have found their quarterback of the future. This is the 32 Blueprint. Yes, Omaha, and happy Monday.
Omaha.
Welcome into the 32 Blueprint. I don't know if we have to say that every time, but
I want to.
Peyton say exactly what I say too. Like, we don't have to say it, but every time I hear Peyton say it, I want to say it back as well. Got a fun episode for you. I will not lie to you. I did not pay too much attention over NFL news this weekend. One, there wasn't a lot of NFL news this weekend because I think everybody and their sister was watching the NCAA tournament like I was. I was staying up very late watching them. Had no game imaginable on my screen that I possibly could. But we are here to talk football because there are still some things to talk about. And probably the biggest news of the offseason. I mean, Jameis Winston, a New York Giant.
That's huge. That's not like you can't just look past that. Like that, it feels like something that you just hear and you move on. Like, no, I think that actually might be huge news.
It took you a minute to think about if you were going to laugh before you made that response or if actually you were serious. So I saw the look on your face. I do think it could be big. I do think you're right there because it could change the NFL draft. It could have a waterfall effect. It could have a downward effect for the entire league, or it could really just not do anything at all. I mean, there is an opportunity for that. Malik Neighbors could have a 2,000-yard receiving season, maybe, if Jameis Winston is just chucking him up there like Uncle Rico. Like, that could absolutely happen. There's no doubt about that as well. And we know that in the New York media, we are going to get some of the best promos by Jameis Winston ever. Before the show, you and I were just looking up some of the best ones. Thursday Night Football in the Tunnel. I mean, what was that? What was that one?
The horses ready for battle. That one.
That is the best one. That is the best thing I've ever heard that guy say.
And then he was out. I think it was that same game that he was doing like snow angels and snowball fights with the crew. I think it was the same game. I mean, he is a national treasure anytime there's a camera on him. And thankfully, he's in the biggest league on the planet. So it's pretty often.
And then he was great acting as a commentator or like a press guy in the Super Bowl. Yes. I remember seeing some things like asking Patrick Mahomes' favorite color during one of the scrums. And I do think he said something, and this is either Mandela effect or this actually happened, but I feel like he asked Mahomes where he should go play. And I thought Mahomes said the New York Giants needed a quarterback. I really think they said that.
So the question is now, when the season ends, like when Mahomes' career ends, does he have a career as an insider? Is that where he goes after football?
I think we have a better chance of Winston definitely being an on-screen personality before Mahomes being an insider. Because have you seen Mahomes' house and have you seen his contracts as of late? I don't think he has to be an insider. There's a reason players or people like Woj stopped doing that job. That is a thankless job, and you are working all types of the night. Let's go to a different sport here. The Luka trade. Shams posted a screenshot of his phone during the Luka trade. That like whole NBA trade deadline. And he was on his phone like 23 hours or something out of the 24 of screen time.
So many hours.
No, they get paid, but if you're Mahomes, you don't need that. So no way. Yeah, I think Jameis Winston will be on TV. I mean, put him on Monday Night Football. Come on. Or put him on the Thursday Night Football staff with Fitzpatrick.
Put him on that. Yes. And every day of the week. Every day of the week, I would take that. And honestly, I hope he plays on every Thursday Night Football moving forward this season, just so he's in primetime while we still have him playing the game. And in that vein, obviously, geez, is this rhyme time? Vein game? The Giants picking 3. I am curious, what do you think that they do now? Is Jameis their starter, or do they take someone to play behind him and learn? I don't know if Jameis is potentially the best quarterback to learn from, but it's certainly a semi-veteran at this point in the league. Do they keep that 3 pick, or do they use it as value and trade back?
Yeah, well, when he was with the Saints, he was definitely a very, like, people always talk about how he was one of the best leaders on the team, even if he wasn't starting. He was one of the best locker room presence. So I think that if they did add a rookie, which I do think they're going to, because the Giants came out and said that they are still going to add other options at quarterback. Because as of right now, they have no choice. They have to. You know, they only have Tommy DeVito and Jameis Winston in their quarterback room. So you want to at least add one more to have some sort of competition or just some sort of, hope forward. Because Tommy DeVito's not moving the needle. I'm sorry. And Jameis Winston, he has the winning. Yes, that's true. I mean, he might move the needle when it comes to a hoagie or something, but that's about it.
The cutlets.
Yeah, cutlets. That's right. The hots and the sweets. But when it comes to Jameis Winston, man, he's a great player. I think he's a very underrated player because he throws lots of touchdowns, throws deep balls, also throws lots of interceptions. There's no doubt about that. Had a polarizing time in Tampa Bay, and then was completely. But I mean, as soon as he left, Tom Brady took over in 1 year and won the Super Bowl. So he had a good team around him, and just couldn't get that next step. Now he's going to a team like New York Giants that probably are going to need a lot more help than just Jameis Winston. Like, he's not going to be like, hey, this team is now the favorites in the NFC East.
Yeah,
probably the fourth best team in the division. But like I said, Malik Neighbors could be a big sign. And if they do decide to stick with the number 3 overall pick and go ahead and draft someone like Shedeur Sanders, say if he's still there at that pick, I don't hate it. I don't hate that opportunity. It gives Shedeur Sanders maybe the option of not playing day 1, even if it's week 6. It doesn't have to
look at what the Patriots and Drake Maye did.
Right. And we've seen that with Josh Allen, too, with the Buffalo Bills. We've seen that with a couple of other players. They sit just a couple weeks just to get a feel of it, and then you just scoot them on in there. Because let's be honest, probably around week 6, the Giants are going to be probably damn near close to already being eliminated from the playoffs unless they find a way to just find lightning in a bottle. I mean, crazier things have happened. There's no doubt about that. The Washington Commanders went from the 2 overall pick last year to the NFC Championship game. I do think that's a different scenario, but like I said, crazier things have happened. I'm still going with they're going to draft a quarterback, but this could mean that they're probably no longer going to trade up to 1-1.
No.
I think Jameis Winston gives them just a little bit of security, knowing that they don't have to or give away more assets to rebuild this team that obviously needs rebuilding in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL right now with the Commanders and the Eagles. So trying to just battle with them, not even let alone getting to the playoff spot, you have to be able to add as many assets as you can. Moving probably 2 or 3 of those assets, just move up 2 spaces and hopefully get Cam Ward, is probably not the best idea for them long term. So I think that's out of the question. I don't think they're going 1-1 anymore. We could see them actually trading down, though. We could see them allowing a team, maybe like the Las Vegas Raiders, to move up that likes a Shedeur Sanders, or a team like the New Orleans Saints, who have been predicted to go for a quarterback, or the team who has yet to sign a quarterback out of all this saga, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Could they trade up to 1-3?
That would be a big jump.
You know, the Giants would entertain it, though, because they need the assets.
Oh, they would. And you know, to that point that you just made, I do think that there is a ton of value, especially after what we saw last year with Drake Maye, and even just a few weeks, given that rookie quarterback some time to acclimate to what is the NFL, the accelerated speed that many veterans have talked about. Like, it takes a little bit to get used to what the new speed of the NFL versus the college is. The pace at which the game is played is very, very fast, but also the preparation. What does it take to come in every day for, you know, those early meetings, for practice, first in, last out type of vibe? Just everything that comes with being a pro versus being a collegiate athlete. I think it does benefit those players quite a bit, even if it isn't a full season, or look at Jordan Love, a few seasons, even a few weeks. I think honestly tremendously helped Drake Maye. So that move to get Jameis Winston into a potential starter and leadership role early, I think is a great play by the Giants, which is not something you hear very often, to be completely honest. But I also think everything you've said thus far is exactly accurate. I don't think there's any reason for them to trade up at this point. And I think this is a very strong position for them to consider trading back, because when you consider they're probably not going to get Cam Ward. Okay. Shedeur is probably going to be very highly touted in this one, as far as we're going to do more draft content later on, but does Cleveland potentially take him? Just kind of depends. But there's plenty of other quarterbacks in this draft that are very competent and have very high potential. Just to name a few, obviously Jackson Dart and Will Howard. So if you trade back to, you know, obviously New Orleans mentioned in there, potentially Pittsburgh, that's quite a bit of a jump, but you gain a lot of assets for a team to jump from 21 as it sits right now up to a 3. That could be a huge, huge acquisition for New York. And then obviously you can still walk away with a quarterback, not even in the first round. You could probably get one in the second or the third, just based on this quarterback draft and where it sits right now. So I do think, honestly, this adding of Jameis Winston was weirdly one of the best moves they could have made. And honestly, from my heart, that I can feel that in my heart, but I can see a lot of people disagreeing with that because he has had so many ups and downs throughout his career.
It could be the most underrated pickup in free agency, and I don't actually say that lightly. I mean that for real, because we'll see what happens. Obviously, in the NFL draft, just a month away. A month away this Thursday, by the way.
That's wild.
I am so excited for the frozen tundra.
It's coming.
Wisconsin. I'm excited. But I think it could be one of the most underrated free agent signings because it could completely change not just the Giants landscape, it could change the entire NFL landscape. And that opens back up the Giants if they don't want to move to a Travis Hunter, to a Abdul Carter, to a piece that could add as a cornerstone to their defense that we'd obviously need. And then, as you mentioned, they could possibly draft a quarterback later on. They could worry about quarterback next year. Maybe they have a different type of ownership, general management, front office feel saying, look, we know that we're not going to be a contender this year. Let's build all the pieces around us, then go get our quarterback later. I love that strategy. Not many teams do it, but I think that is the strategy to become a perennial contender. Don't rush to get your quarterback. Build all the pieces around it first, then go get them. In this draft, where the Giants are sitting right now, I heard somebody say this the other day, and I thought it was perfect. This draft reminds you of whatever year it was when Jared Goff and Carson Wentz was drafted.
Oof.
It was those two people drafted, and then the next quarterback drafted was in round 2. Do you know who that was? He was drafted by the Jets. Do you remember who that was? Penn State.
I want to say Darnold.
Christian Hackenberg.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
When was Darnold taken? A couple years later, then obviously.
Exactly. Dang. Darnold was still round 1. He was drafted the same year as Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen drafted.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. He had to be grasping for straws. I couldn't remember that guy.
I know back then when Carson Wentz and and Goff were drafted, you were probably only like 3 or 4 years old. I know that. So
yeah.
But anyways, that's what this draft kind of reminds me of. You have Cam Ward, you have Shedeur Sanders, you maybe have Jackson Dart getting drafted, but he's rose after the season. Yeah. And that's it for the round 1, right? And then you have this, what is perceived as a huge drop-off. But if a team falls in love with those other quarterbacks, they can get them later. And they get best available later on. If the Giants feel that way about an Abdul Carter or about a Travis Hunter, they're in a really great situation now. And it could be all thanks to Jameis Winston. How about that?
I agree so much with your take of like most underrated pickup. I think that's the best way to sum up what I was trying to say. Like this team making this move, the Giants are kind of a laughingstock of the NFL at sometimes, especially after the Hard Knocks last season and letting Saquon go. Like that's just all anyone.
You think his son was like, pick up Jameis Winston,
and he
make
just
America happy.
Listen to him,
make America happy, and go get Jameis Winston. Have you heard this guy talk about horses?
I have. That was what happened inside of that Giants organization, kudos, because they actually finally pulled it together. But that's, obviously where I'm going with that is like Giants kind of on the brunt end of a lot of jokes. Jameis Winston does have his shining moments, but also kind of on a little bit of the wackier side. So not taken so seriously. When you pair the two, I can see the general fan being like, this doesn't matter. This is just a random signing. But actually, I do think this has major ripple effects as far as the Giants draft strategy. And that obviously affects the entire league when they sit at 3 overall.
After having Aaron Rodgers and Danny Dimes as the New York media quarterbacks last year, you're getting Justin Fields and Jameis Winston. How exciting is that going to be? I mean, that's going to be electric.
In New York media, Jameis Winston? Yes, every day. Give it to me. Let's go.
All day. We might have a segment every day that's just about what did Jameis say today. And I'm okay with that. You guys might have to get used to it because if it does happen, It's going to happen, and it's definitely, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, and he rocked number 3, he's rocked number 2, he's rocked number 5. So you can be sure that if that happens, it'll happen in the first 5 minutes of the show every single time. Okay, Jameis Winston. Let's make a a pre-draft prediction here. The New York Giants picked up Jameis Winston. How many games does he start for the New York Giants this year?
Honestly, my prediction is gonna be 8.
Okay.
And that feels like too many, but it's about the halfway point of the season. I think it's a good spot to pick. If I had to lean in one way or the other, I'd say it's less. And then they end up getting the rookie or, whoever, maybe it's Cutlets in early, just because I'm sure that there will be a few hot seat situations going on there. But I'm going to take 8 for now because I think Jameis is capable of winning a fair amount of games through those first 8.
I love it. In 2021, he started in 7 games for the Saints. He went for 1,170 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. Something surprising from Jameis Winston. 14 and 3 overall in his career. 154 touchdowns, 111 interceptions. Almost 50-50 on that. Like, we're talking almost Brett Favre numbers, but touchdowns interception ratio. So a lot of things to worry about that. Hey, if you can get 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in about 6 or 7 to 8 games, I think the Giants would take that all day long. And then knowing that you have a guy like Jameis Winston, who not only is going to teach you how to be an absolute legend in front of the media, in front of the microphone to whoever it is. And if it's Shedeur Sanders, he's not going to need to teach him that, actually. But if it's Jameis Winston and Shedeur Sanders in a quarterback room, if that happens,
my God.
Why didn't you even think of that?
Yeah, it's a great point, actually.
That Blooper has now turned into a Jameis Winston love podcast, apparently.
It's not going to change. I'm not going to change my stance on that. That is 1,000%. What do you think?
How many games? For 17 minutes of this podcast about Jameis Winston.
How many games they win in here, huh? With Jameis.
In those 8 games?
Yeah, let's say 8 for now. Yeah, let's keep.
Okay. I haven't seen the schedule, and I don't think the schedules came out yet. Actually, I don't think it comes out.
Not yet.
So let's just. I think they can go 3-5 or 4-4, and I think that's doable because
that's really
the
all
roster's not great. The roster's not great. You're probably playing out of those 8 games. You're probably playing at least 3 or 4 division games. So unless you got the Cowboys early, I mean 500. If you can keep them 500, I mean
that's a win.
That's a win. If you could find to move the Giants to they're not going to be the playoffs, but maybe not be a top 5 pick next year in the draft, I think that's a win.
That is a win. Yes, the Giants very much in a tough spot right now. So I think this was a huge pickup, though. Honestly, I think this was a big one.
Me too. All right, let's look for a team who was in the top of the draft last year, had a bad season this year as well, and is back in the top, but things are turning around, and that's your New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel obviously doing some good things there, building up in free agency, second year of Drake Maye. The biggest question we have talked about on this show so far for the Patriots is, what are they going to do at wide receiver? Why are they, how come they haven't upgraded yet? NFL draft obviously is coming up, but there are still some veteran options in wide receiver that could be coming at a value that could help Drake Maye step up and maybe grab some more confidence in year 2. They did just have former AFC East rival Stefon Diggs, who played for the Buffalo Bills for a few years, was with the Houston Texans last year. They just had him up for a visit this past weekend, and he is coming off a torn ACL. Not many people are going after him, but before his ACL injury, one of the best receivers in all of football. Now, there has seemed to be potentially some baggage that has come with Stefon Diggs in the past with whatever the drama was between Josh Allen and him. There was a reason why he wanted out of Minnesota so many years back as well. Didn't really ever seem like there was an issue in Houston. It's just the injury happened. And I don't think there was ever going to be a long-term relationship there to begin with, just because of all the other receivers they have. So obviously he has to be in a situation right now where he's probably going to grab a prove-it deal, because he has to prove that he's still a good receiver after his injury. He's aging. He's not getting any younger. He's now seen as a veteran piece. Could this be a nice pickup for the New England Patriots? And are you worried about that baggage in a locker room with Vrabel leading the charge, but with Drake Maye, a young quarterback, as the leader?
I honestly, I'm 50-50. I think this could be a really solid pickup. A player that has played a lot of years in this league, knows what it takes to win. Obviously, one of the greatest moments in the Minneapolis Miracle stands out when you look back at this guy's career. So to say that Stefon Diggs would be a terrible pickup for the Patriots, that's just incorrect. I don't think I would ever take that stance. And he's a guy that I unfortunately generally pick up every single year in fantasy. So like for me to say that would be like super hypocritical. But on top of that, there is that element of the baggage, right? Like the very much loud kind of presence that was Buffalo. And I agree with you. Yeah, Houston was kind of a quiet stop because it felt like it was going to be really short and in the injury and everything. So as far as would I like the Patriots to take Stefon Diggs in, I'm going to say yes for now. I am going to take that just because I think that is something that this team could benefit from. But my apprehensions come when you consider what happened to Mac Jones and how easily these rookie or second year or third year quarterbacks, when you put them through kind of a gauntlet early on, and it's really hard to come back from something like that. That's what makes me nervous. So you look at a really solid rookie year from Drake Maye, and then you end up in a whole, this is the drama situation with Stefon, and it's this, it's that. It's more than just football going out and playing. That's a situation I don't want to find the Patriots in. I don't want to find Drake Maye in. And I'm willing to give Stefon Diggs the benefit of the doubt at this moment in time. But I do think that that's where my let's hold on a second. Let's evaluate all our options comes from. But to, flip back and forth like I have over the last few minutes, still an unbelievable wide receiver. Like this is an option for Drake Maye to kind of be that number one guy right now, as opposed to trying to get someone through the draft.
I think even if you did get someone through the draft and you grab Diggs is your number one receiver, if healthy, going into the season. And just because of looking at the other players that you have, and it might be a 1A, 1B type of scenario, but I do think that if you did grab him, he would pick up probably the most targets. Before he got injured in Houston last year in his 8 games, he had 64 targets. So putting that math together, he averaged 8 targets per game. If you get 8 targets per game, and he picked up 47 receptions out of those 64 targets, so not bad, pretty good. I don't know how many of those were drops or how many, whatever the case may be. I don't have that stats in front of me, but if you get, it's probably 6.5, I'd say, just doing the small math, 6.5 receptions per game out of those 8 targets from a second-year quarterback who's looking to take that step forward. You added Matt Collins, another former Buffalo Bills receiver, who we've talked about in the past, isn't going to be a wide receiver one, but can give you reliable targets and receptions as well, something that Drake Maye obviously needs. He needs guys around him that he knows if he can throw the ball and get it out, if his line can protect him, if he can have enough time to get it to them, he can know that if that target's on key, that receiver is going to catch it. And I think you get that Matt Collins. I think you get that with Stefon Diggs. I don't know if you get that much with anybody other receiver on the roster, and that's the problem that he had last year. I think you do have to have a revamped receiver room, and if that means adding in a couple 1-year prove-it guys to say, okay, have fun, show me what you got in front of this Drake Maye quarterback, the second-year quarterback, and then if you do good, you go get paid somewhere else next year, and we'll keep building the way we need to, then so be it. Because this New England team, the way that Vrabel is slowly building it back to what they hoped the dynasty was of the last 20 years, minus the last 3 or 4, if they can find a way to get back into that, pre-Mac Jones era, then I think they'll be okay. And that's really what happened, right? We're going to talk about Mac Jones again in this episode. There's 2 times we're opening up Mac Jones. Crazy, right? But I do think it wouldn't be a bad pickup. Every single year he was with the Buffalo Bills, and you would have thought this would happen to the Vikings as well, but it never did. Every year he was with the Buffalo Bills, he made the Pro Bowl. All 4 years.
Oh, really?
In 2020, the first year he was with the Bills, he led the league in receptions, 127. He had 166 targets, actually. And he led the league in yards. He had over 1,500 yards. If you got that type of production, hell, if you just got 1,000 yards receiving from Stefon Diggs,
huge win.
You're in a huge spot with Drake Maye. And I would love to see that happen because you obviously need to upgrade the wide receiver room. Maybe adding a veteran presence means some of these players like a Jalen Polk or a Demario Douglas or someone like that steps up. Maybe you get that type of competition. Maybe they don't feel like there's competition right now because that team was obviously in a weird situation. There's a reason why your former coach Maye only lasted 1 season before they made the change. I think they were in a desperate need for a culture change. You already have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper as your tight ends. I think that's a great spot for them. I think your running backs, Antonio Gibson and Stevenson, those guys are great as well. If you can update that wide receiver group with a couple veteran guys, give me Diggs. Hell, give me Tyler Lockett as well. Go for both of them. Go for broke.
Yeah. No,
And
I
that's
would
not
take
even broke.
Lockett.
Those are both 1-year deals.
That's the thing, is I think a lot of people are there's a lot of conversation around the baggage. And like, oh, Stefon Diggs is this big name. How many years, how much are the Patriots spending on him? I think this really is a prove it year type of
For sure.
situation. And obviously this is, just per Twitter, but there seems to be no urgency at this point. I think both sides are willing to kind of take a look and say like, hey, we're willing to approve it. Is that something that, like, do you want to be here? And that's a situation that I would like this to, kind of culminate into. I wouldn't want the Patriots to throw $35 million at Diggs and then he's like, fine, I'll come, whatever, you're paying me a ton of money, and then he's pissed off 3 weeks into the season. Like, he wants to be here. We'll pay you, and if you're successful, it's kind of an incentive loaded deal, if you will, with some solid guarantees up front, however it might look. And if that's how it works out, great. I think that's a great way for this to go. And last point I'll make here is that per Savage on Twitter, Stefon Diggs is now following Drake Maye and Jason Tatum, two absolute massive Boston names. And of course, one being his quarterback. So something worth looking at there if you're actually diving in deep into the Stefon Diggs to New England saga, or I guess just kind of conversations, not really a saga at this point. But it's a pickup that I wouldn't hate. And I do think that the way that it's shaping up with like, hey, you come in, let's have a conversation. Let's kind of take our time with this, see where everyone's sitting. I'd rather it go that way than like, don't let him leave the building, pay him $85 million, and all of a sudden he's pissed off because, yeah, you got paid a lot, but he's never getting the ball.
You went from 35 million to 85 million. Let's get some of these numbers maybe more realistic here real fast. The Houston Texans, when they traded with the Buffalo Bills to get Diggs, they actually voided out some of his years, and he wound up only having a 1-year contract for about $22 million. Now, when he was with the Vikings, he was making about $14 million per year back then. According to Spot Track, his projected market value is an average annual salary of $13.7 million. So if you gave him a 1-year, $14 million deal, I mean, if I'm the Patriots, I would give that deal to Stefon Diggs. I think that's a great deal
number.
In this market, I think that is a really good number as well. $14 million for a Pro Bowl player, for a guy who has already been in this spot with a young quarterback. He did it with Josh Allen in your division.
Yes.
That'd
be a fun revenge game too. It would.
And if it's a 1-year deal and it doesn't work out, if he becomes if the baggage becomes too much, I'll say this multiple times on this show, but this is the first time you get to hear it from me. There's not a 1-year deal I don't like.
Oh,
there's not a 1-year deal I don't like, because if you don't like it, you can release him. You've already paid the money. The guarantee's already there.
Yeah.
Move on. If you're building a culture and something doesn't work and you're only connected to him for 1 year, that means you're connected to him until you want to get rid of him. You can move on from at week 6, week 8. It doesn't matter. Once he becomes a problem, if that happens, I'm not saying it does, but if it does, there's not a 1-year deal I don't like. There's no risk. Once you sign that contract, the risk is over.
That's a much better situation to find yourself in than the Browns right now. I mean, that's a long-term deal with a lot of money involved that they are working through at this point versus, let's bring in a guy for a year, see how it goes. I agree with you completely. Just play it kind of by ear. And if you outperform, we'll bring you back. No problem with that.
Nothing wrong with that as well. Absolutely. I mean, if you find a way to get the New England Patriots in the playoffs. I'm just saying, if you find a way to do that and you're one of the reasons and you get yourself back to the Pro Bowl,
boom.
Probably won't be on the Patriots next year, but you'll have yourself say big time pay somewhere else. I mean, that's absolutely possible.
100%.
All right, let's wrap up the show with asking a fun question. And you can't use, since we're just talking about Patriots quarterbacks, you can't use Joe Milton in this project here, this scenario, because I think everybody in the world wants to see Joe Milton get traded away from the Patriots because he's a quarterback that's just sitting there right now. Is QB3 behind Josh Dobbs. He's just hiding. The Patriots are bubble wrapping him, putting him, in the corner, saying save for another day
because he's unbelievable. Let's keep him on the roster.
Don't make him the Matt Castle of 2008. Okay, in case something happens, break glass. Like we don't need that. Like we need we need Joe Milton on a team. I mean, I personally think he'd be great to see him on the Dallas Cowboys. So when Dak Prescott obviously messes up in week 1, he can take his job, or maybe he could be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I don't know. But right now, there's a report saying that the Patriots only want a 3rd-round pick for him. I don't think that's going to happen. So this is where we sit. So here's my fun scenario to wrap up this episode today.
Okay.
Which young quarterback that has been in the league so far that either had a shot? Actually, I think all these quarterbacks have had a shot, haven't really panned out. So which young quarterback would you be willing to take a chance on again? Doesn't matter the team. You can bring up a scenario and tell me, like, I think the Titans should do this, or I think the Steelers should do this, or you can just pick the player. I don't care. That's as fun as I'll get with this scenario. But out of these 4 quarterbacks, which one are you willing to still take a chance on? Trey Lance had a shot with San Francisco. Obviously, they moved on, went to Brock Purdy, traded him to Dallas, and he didn't do anything there. It was kind of like a Joe Milton situation.
It was,
Mac Jones, you know about Mac Jones, New England Patriots, had a decent moment in his rookie year. There was some good shining moments there, I will say.
One shining moment,
when he went to Jacksonville, he wasn't bad as a backup to Trevor Lawrence, okay? Danny Jones, there was New York Giants playoff football just a few years ago with Danny Dimes. After he signed that huge contract, it's like he felt comfortable or something. I don't know. It was like the Ryan Fitzpatrick feeling of the Buffalo Bills a few years ago. Look at me. Do you even know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is? I know you're like,
oh, please. Okay. Come on now.
Sure you understand Fitzmagic on this show. And then Will Levis, obviously the Tennessee Titans quarterback for the last few years. Titans have won one, so obviously we all know and think that they're moving on from Cam Ward. So out of those 4 quarterbacks, who would you be willing to give another chance to if you are a GM of the other 31 teams in this scenario? You don't have to pick a team, but which one would you be willing to do?
Yeah, no, that's actually a tough question, if you will.
Oh.
I think I'm going to keep this for the fun questions.
I like it.
No, out of those guys, it's a tough group. I'm not going to lie to you. We have seen the success of Sam Darnold in recent years, which makes me wonder what these Jets guys can do. Or I
didn't say Zach Wilson.
No, I know.
Zach Wilson.
I was like,
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson was coming. I thought Zach Wilson was coming down the pipe, and I was going to go with him just because of former Jets guy, and what we saw from Sam Darnold and stuff. But I think I'm going to lean
ghost in New York.
I think I'm going to lean Mac Jones here, and I don't even really want to lean that way. Just out of the other names, like the situations they were in, and the players they had around them. Danny Dimes was in a very odd spot. I just don't know enough about him right now. Mac Jones in the offensive coordinator situations he was placed in and the weapons he had around him were sparse to non-existent. I don't have any ill will towards Mac Jones. I am certainly glad he's not our quarterback anymore, but it doesn't mean that he can't be successful anywhere else. And so if I were to give anyone another chance, out of those 4 names, I think it would be Mac Jones.
Who?
Mackie Mac? Big Mac Jones?
Mac Jones? Who?
Yeah, I think that's, it's tough. Like, I don't feel confident in that pick. I don't know what you're getting at, but I don't know.
You're showing your age every single second on this show.
I knew it was a reference to my age. I knew that, but I was like, did I say his name wrong? No, I just, that's a horrible group of 4. That's a group of 4 that has certainly struggled. But out of those 4, I mean, only one's had 2 OCs in the same year. So I'll take Big Mac.
Before I give you my question, do you think any of these 4 will ever start an NFL game again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll stop. I honestly almost wonder if all 4 of them will start. Just at some point, you can hang around. There's an injury at some point. These are all capable quarterbacks. I mean, they're top 64 probably in the world at their position. Like, they're very legit, don't get me wrong. And obviously I think Daniel Jones' contract that he secured with the Giants helps his case as well. So I think they'll all start. I don't know if they'll win those games, but I think they'll all probably start at some point.
If they both play against each other, who would welcome? No, I'm not going that far. All right. We don't need to raise your sticky note question mark again. Here's my question. Here's my answer. I'm going to go with Mac Jones as my 3rd pick in this one. If I had to rank him, I'd go Mac Jones as 3rd. Danny
Really?
Jones. I think Danny Dimes, I think he
Interesting.
deserves another chance, and I think he's going to get it in Indianapolis. I think that
Yeah.
I think they might be over the Anthony Richardson conversation. There's a reason they brought Daniel Jones in and actually paid him some money to come in. This is what, in my opinion, this is what they did for this. They set a bar for Anthony Richardson and said, look, this offseason, Daniel Jones is the line. He's the Mendoza line.
Yep.
You can't outbeat Daniel Jones. Your career is over.
Yeah.
It's time for you to go. And I think that they're going to, and NFL GMs are going to see that as well. And they've already heard about the things. If he doesn't want to start anymore, he's being too tired. Like,
That's I was gonna say, you don't see very many starters pulling themselves out of games. You just don't see that.
The Indianapolis Colts are setting a standard with Daniel Jones, and it's crazy to say, but knowing that this is the line. If you are below the line, then you're not staying around. You can't be our franchise quarterback.
Nothing below this would be acceptable.
That's it. It's like bad grandpa when he tells him this, you can't pass this line. The guy steps the line and said, oh, you crossed the line. Can't do that, Anthony Richardson. You can't. That's where I'm going. He's my number 2. But number 1, I think Will Levis had a terrible situation in Tennessee last year. Will Levis was sacked so many times. He had a terrible job being protected. Now, he made some bad throws, but like Daniel Jones, I think he was gun shy. He got a little shell shocked after getting beat up so many times. I mean,
a generational run
over and over again. Yeah, just keep going back out there over and over again, and knowing that your right tackle or left tackle is probably going to make you get hit from behind, blindsided. Like you're going out there willingly because you're getting paid, and you like to eat mayo out of a jar, and you're willing to be able to say, "Hey, I'm going to get my ass kicked," but that's just the way it goes right now because we're the Tennessee Titans and we suck.
Yeah,
I think if Will Levis was in a different situation with a good line, if you put Will Levis on the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. The Pittsburgh
how many wins?
Steelers, at least 9. At least 9.
It just felt like he was so young on that team. Like the decisions he was making just felt so, like, to lack of better word, immature. And it was just like a last second, like I said, like just a generational meme run because he was like throwing his body into the wind and like every ball just like it felt like Carson Wentz there for a little bit. Like if
have you ever ate
we're
mayo
not scoring
out
a
of
touchdown.
Have you ever
have I ever ate mayo out of a jar?
Yeah.
No.
You had to think about it.
Well, because I'm like wondering, does it count if I'm like testing if it's good? You know, onto the spoon, just
no, that doesn't count. No,
then
you
I would
sit down with like the jar and you're like,
no, I can't.
It's your cereal bowl.
Like that, no. Miracle Whip, yes. Mayo, no. Miracle Whip, yes.
I think that might be worse, actually.
No way. Miracle Whip is so much better. Oh, are you kidding me? It's got the tanginess.
I'm pretending to freeze on that show.
I know. I'll do this all day. I will have a staring contest with you all day.
No way. I think Will Levis could be a better quarterback if he was on a different team. I think that's, again, I think a cop out in that conversation about that portion. But Will Levis, I think, if he was not in the same situation as he was last year, dare I say we talk about him differently this year?
Oh,
the Tennessee Titans probably aren't picking 1-1. And if they were picking 1-1, I don't know if we'd be so inclined to saying they were going after a quarterback. So how much is it Bill Callahan? How much is it is it Bill Callahan, Brian Callahan? I don't know. I messed up now. Brian. Coach Callahan. How much is it him? How much is it the offensive line? How much is it the fact that they traded away Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins in front of his eyeballs, right?
And AJ Brown.
They went to a rebuild. Right. Yeah. So I would like to see maybe him get one more go. I don't think it's going to happen with Tennessee, but if you could trade him,
that's where I go because he's so young, Yeah. I mean, Max Young.
We saw Trey Lance. I think we saw what we got from Trey Lance. I think there's a reason Dallas never gave him a shot. I think they were just kind of maybe hoping that they could change him, and they tried to see what he got in practice. And I think they just knew. That's why we never saw him in games as well. So I think Trey Lance is done. Out of the 4 of them, I think we could see 3 of them starting a game. I don't think Trey Lance will be an NFL quarterback.
That's what I was going to say. Now, revisiting your question, will they all start? I don't know. Maybe not Trey Lance. He's going to have to be on a different team, I think, because Cooper Rush, obviously, kind of the backup there in Dallas.
Cooper Rush just signed somewhere else.
Oh, where'd he go? I didn't see this.
Where'd he go? Yeah, I just saw it. Where'd he go? There's so many things that just happened.
Oh my God, what is Jerry Jones going to do?
I know. Yeah, where did he sign? Oh, Baltimore Ravens. He's Lamar's backup now.
So is it? Oh my gosh, that's actually big time. I did not know that. I did not see that.
Yeah.
That is
Cooper Rush,
important.
Baltimore Raven.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, you learned something here, folks.
It's just Dak Prescott now. I don't even know who's the Cowboys' backup quarterback now. I
Probably
don't
Trey
even have
then.
that. No, he's a free agent. They didn't keep him.
They're not bringing him back. They should. Jeez.
I mean, as of right now, they're not. According to ourlads.com, backup quarterback is Will Greer. Will Greer.
Okay.
So young guy was.
So do you think? I didn't know that he was completely out and straight of water. Do you think Trey Lance will get signed somewhere?
No. No, I don't. I don't. With the quarterbacks that are coming in the draft this year, and let's be honest, if you want a Trey Lance, you might as well just draft Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
So
you kind of know what you've seen other teams in their opinion on Trey Lance. I mean, why take the chance?
You just talked about you saying that some of these quarterbacks are top 64. Shout out Super Nintendo. Shout out Nintendo. If you think that Trey Lance is top 64, then I got some waterfront property to sell you in Arizona.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the case. I think that if you looked at the NFL draft right now and you looked at 5, 6 quarterbacks, maybe even 7 quarterbacks, I'd take over Trey Lance just because they have some upside.
Yeah.
If the Cowboys didn't go for Trey Lance and even give him a shot after Dak Prescott got injured last year, didn't even give him a shot, didn't even start him. They knew what they had with Cooper Rush.
Yeah. That's actually, I cannot believe that. I didn't even. Yeah, Trey Lance is totally cooked, bro. He is not a top 64 guy.
Yeah, he's done. He's done. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Trey.
No, hey, it happens, Trey. It happens.
It's crazy. Like 2 years ago, he was top 64. He was arguably top 32. There was conversation of why is he hitting.
We go to this point, though. This is now he becomes a former first-round draft pick, and that's when
he's looking a lot like Josh Rosen right now. I hate to say it.
Ooh. What? They got to make us 30 on 30 for Josh Rosen. How fast he declined. It was so quick. I mean, he started 1 year, and then the next thing you know, he's on the practice squad of the Dolphins the next year. Like, what was that? What was that? I mean,
that was something, man.
If you compare the two careers back and forth, and we're kind of picking on Trey Lance here, Josh Rosen had it way worse.
Oh my! But he remembers everyone drafted ahead of him, so
it's true. That's true.
I mean, there's
my
that.
Gosh, we talked about the backup quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, Will Greer, West Virginia guy. Shout out Mountaineer Paul.
Shout out Mountaineer Paul, baby. My dog
on our show. There it is. Let's wrap it up here. We got more coming at you tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to get some news coming in today. Now that there's no basketball happening, I know that Scheffler was watching his Michigan Wolverines move to the Sweet 16. They get humbled by Auburn just this next weekend coming up. I don't know, actually. They got 7-footers on their team. They're fun to watch. They
are looking pretty good.
Yeah, lots of things. Your Iowa State Cyclones, we're
not talking about it. We're not talking about it.
I'm talking about it.
I'm leaving the call right now.
Lots of things to talk about coming up on this show on the 32 Blueprint. So be sure to subscribe. We're starting to see some traction here, seeing some great stuff on the audio side as well. So thank you, folks. Really appreciate that. If you are not subscribed, stay subscribed. Hit that subscribe button below. Hit like, join the conversation. Come have a good time with us because that's what we're doing every single day here on the 32 Blueprint. All right, folks. See you next time. Take care.